We're going to hear a few words from our Brother Johnny Robertson.
I need to do something, and it involves me wearing my hat for a second. Where I come from, one of the greatest honors that you can pay is to take your hat off. And my hat is off to you ladies. I have been following you around from North Carolina, Charlotte, Raleigh, Houston, and you're some of the sweetest, most well-dressed, modest women that I know of anywhere. Pastor Jennings,
That's right. All right.
you are one of the strongest, most powerful preachers that I have ever heard. My hat's off. People that know me will tell you that when Johnny makes a mistake, he tries to correct it. And I have made a mistake. 20 years ago, I met Pastor Jennings in Martinsville, Virginia. And for the last 20 years, let's say 24 years ago is what it really was. For the last 20 years, I have believed that Martinsville and Southern Virginia would be better off without Pastor Jennings. And that was a big mistake. The state of religion in our area is atrocious. The dress is atrocious. I'm a member of the Church of Christ. The dress in the Church of Christ is atrocious. The behavior is atrocious. And if Pastor Jennings would have been in our area, it would have been a lot better. And so, also, this wasn't a mistake, I don't think. It was just pure ignorance. I made friends with a man named Finch in the Rocky Mount Temple. I pulled up and Finch was doing the yard work, and I was investigating. I'll just tell you the truth. I was investigating because Pastor Jennings and I have been talking back and forth, and Finch and I began to talk, and this was last year, Pastor Jennings. We started talking, and I told him, I said, you know, I've been following around. I went to the convocation in Charlotte, and I've been to Greensboro to a convention, and I said, I'm starting to like Pastor Jennings. You know what? You know what Finch said? He said, Pastor Jennings loves you. I was ashamed of myself. Cut me to the heart. I had let him be my adversary in my mind, and I didn't love him like I should have. And for that, I'm sorry. Now, in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 8, Paul said this, "For we would not, brethren, have you ignorant of our trouble which came to us in Asia."
Thanks for being with us tonight. I'm Johnny Robertson, and we are live here on What Does the Bible Say? I need to back a video up that I was just watching or listening to so that you can hear it in just a minute. Okay. We have a very interesting set of events that have taken place here lately in our area. We are in a struggle. And it is really, really, really something. This is basically a picture of some of the players that we're dealing with here in our local city council. Now, folks, I don't know what it's like where you live, but I cannot imagine that it's not similar to where we are. And you know, I'd like to ask you, have you ever thought about going to a city council meeting or a supervisors meeting? You might not have supervisors. You may have what they call judges, commissioners, things of that nature. And I've been friends with commissioners and judges, same thing, supervisors. One of my friends that was a judge, it was in Tennessee, it was called Judges. When he went to run the second time, somebody painted his face on a barn and put a Hitler mustache on him. And you know, the reason he was a member of the Church of Christ, and the reason they did that is because when these people would come into town, when the planning commission or committee would come up with some idea, some building project or whatever, everybody started getting them kickbacks under the table. And he wouldn't take a kickback. And so since he wouldn't take a kickback, and you might think, well, how does that affect everybody else? Listen, if you took a kickback along with everybody else, are you going to tell? Are you going to have that moment where your conscience just pricks you and you decide to give $50,000 back? No. You know, one of the craziest moments that I can think of talking to city council was one day I was talking to Chad Martin here in town. His first year as a city council, and I said something to him about a kickback and the kickbacks that go on, and he acted like he didn't know what I was talking about. And I just thought, you know, for a little bit, I was maybe told a couple people, you don't know what a kickback is. And then I just got to thinking, you can't be on the city council and not know about kickbacks. It pays to let these different folk come in and do these grand schemes that turn upside down, inside out, and who's left holding the bag? Well, the city is. You know, our city budget, I believe I saw last night, was $38 million. And that's a lot of money. And so what I'm showing you right here, these are immigrants. You know, we're having a lot of trouble with immigrants, don't you know? And a lot of them are being deported. And this is a minivan, and I basically just want you to meet some immigrants that made their way into Martinsville, Virginia. This is the crowd that we're working with right now. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why Martinsville, Virginia, of all places, is so important that these individuals that we'll do a little bit more introducing in just a minute, why they came to our humble little area. Now, this broadcast is going to be, in a sense, it's going to be covering kind of a broad spectrum, because you see right here is a religious setting. At least you might not know that. You might think this is our city council. Well, it's not. It's actually a huge religious group up in Fifth and something in Philadelphia, North Philadelphia. And I was there this past weekend. I drove there on Saturday. And so there is the presiding bishop, and his name is Gino Jennings. And there I am. And you see the caption, 24 years of finding a path to unity. And I've got my hat off to him. What does that have to do with our city council? Well, it really has a lot to do with our city council, because Gino Jennings has been interested in us since 2000. He's been coming to Martinsville, Virginia since 2000, and he was planning on setting up a religious organization here in our area, and he never did. And so that's one of the things that we're talking about. But if you see the caption of that video, that's a video that I put up yesterday because I was inside with Gino Jennings. And here's the caption. It took 24 years to love Gino Jennings. And then the caption says, Johnny Robertson sacrifices all for this moment. Y'all, you know, you just sometimes you just have this moment where you realize that there's things that are not in place and they just have to be straightened out. And for 24 years, Gino Jennings and I have been bantering back and forth about when we're going to have that debate that he came to Martinsville to have in 2000. When he came, he said he was going to call out all churches, including the Church of Christ. I showed up. I had airtime. We're 3 blocks from the studio, and that started it. And so we've been going until 2024, and I caught up with him. And, you know, things are really amazing how they do work out. I caught up with him in Richmond, and his one of his really sweet personnel, let me key her up. This is Miss Cindy. I'm not going to tell her last name. She is in charge of travel, and she let me in. She got to talking to me about Martinsville and Greensboro, and she had the power to let me in or not to talk to Gino Jennings in his conference room while he got ready to preach. And when I went in, he was not expecting me. She let me in, shut the door, and there we were, 2 men together who had been bantering back and forth at that point for 23 years. And I started talking to him about, let's have that debate. And I had my phone recorder on, and we sat down and he agreed to have the debate. And so that's where we've been. Now, I will say that moment was a turning point in my life, just from the standpoint of 2 men that had met 23 years ago, both of us young. He's 3 years younger than I am. So there we were in our 40s, and he's gunning for territory, and I'm fresh out of the mission field and working in a what I call a mission field here in Virginia. And, you know, it's just, we're doing our thing. And both of us, as we say, we're both in our 40s. He not in his 40s yet, I don't think. I was just turning 40. And then here we are, all this time. And when I think about him, when I thought about him, I, just really did not think about anything but how I don't know what else to say, but just say, take him down. And, and I'm talking to preachers now. I'm talking to members of the men in the Church of Christ that want to be in the pulpit and things of that nature. This isn't about taking people down. The thing that ends up being missing is, I just don't really know what to do, but just say what it says here. John 17:21. That they all may be one, as thou, Father, art in me. Only way that we're ever going to have unity, the only way we're ever going to accomplish what God wants us to accomplish is if we get our hearts right. And so I'm going to begin with this passage. I usually use it in a way where it just ends up being different than what I'm going to say tonight. It's not that we're changing the scripture. It's just that when I think about this now, these people were Jews, and Jesus was praying, neither pray I for these alone. And if you're not a Bible student or you're not, aware, sure, he's in the garden and they're asleep, and he is working through the tribulation of going to the cross, getting through the beatings and the challenges that he knows are in front of him, and going to the cross and dying. But he says, I'm praying for them also that which shall believe on me through their word. So, he's actually has us in mind. Those of us who have believed on him through the apostles' word. When you talk about the Apostolic Church, the reason they call themselves Apostolic is because they say that they are following the apostles' doctrine in Acts 2:42. They can continue daily in the apostles' doctrine. And what they end up saying is that there in Acts chapter 2, they all received the Holy Ghost. And they're saying that they're following the apostles' doctrine, which really it's code for they're saying they are the Pentecostal, they are the true, and they've got the Holy Ghost, the whole bit. But look at this. For them which also shall believe on me through their word. What is it that we're really supposed to be doing? When we start talking about setting up religious organizations, setting up the church, building a assembly of people, do we really think what we're doing? We're not just preaching the word, we're supposed to be performing the word. And he said, what I want to do is I want them to all be one, as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that thou hast sent me. And so I definitely remember going into events where Gino Jennings had rented a conference room. I remember, just as clear as it was yesterday. On one occasion, I actually had a big scar across my nose where a recoil had caught me right on the nose. But I tell you this, what I don't remember is I don't remember thinking about Gino Jennings' soul. I remember meeting many, many, many people in Martinsville and Henry County in the area that had been listening to my television broadcasts, that we had learned to know through their family members, and I was concerned about them and had spent a lot of times hours with some of their family members studying with them, and I knew that they had heard our shows on television and they knew that we were trying to present information to them. But you can get lost, you can really get lost in like a job that you feel like that you are responsible for, and you're not really performing what it is that you're trying to, or what Jesus would be having you do. So it's not like, okay, I have said, people ask me, what do you do? I plant churches. I try to go from place to place and set up churches, not buildings, the assembly of the people of God. And when I think about that, I think about administrative things, finding a hotel conference room, figuring out how to pay some bills, figuring out how to generate interest and things of that nature. But, when we're talking about performing it, look at this. John 13:35. And when you get there, you say, oh, I thought he was really going to do something astounding. By this shall all men know that you are my disciples, if you have love one for another. I don't know how many of you actually heard the beginning of our show, because we play a bumper, and so what that basically means is that you were seeing a purple screen and you were hearing something and you wouldn't have known what it was. And so I'm going to let you see me inside of Gino Jennings' assembly, and I'm going to let you hear me tell a couple of stories, and then I'm going to go back to, by this shall they know that you're my disciples, if you have love one for another. And then I'm going to really make the application. So here is me in Philadelphia in the massive cathedral where Gino Jennings is, and I'm being introduced and I'm about to say something to them after Gino and I have spent the entire morning talking about the differences that we have and that we're going to discuss, and how I came to the positions that I have on the Godhead and on the reception or the not receiving the miraculous level of the Holy Spirit. So take a listen.
Downstairs, available for those that are being baptized. That will conclude the announcements at this time. Now, before we turn it over to Pastor Jennings, we're going to hear a few words from our brother Johnny Robertson.
I need to do something, and it involves hat for a second. Where I come from, one of the greatest honors that you can pay is to take your hat off. And my hat is off to you ladies. I've been following you around from North Carolina, Charlotte, Raleigh, Houston, and you're some of the sweetest, most well-dressed, modest women that I know of.
That's right. All right.
You are one of the strongest, most powerful preachers that I have ever heard. My hats off to you. People that know me will tell you that when Johnny makes a mistake, he tries to correct it. And I have made a mistake. 20 years ago, I met Pastor Jennings in Martinsville, Virginia. And for the last 20 years, let's say 24 years ago is what it really was. For the last 20 years, I have believed that Martinsville and Southern Virginia would be better off without Pastor Jennings. And that was a big mistake. The state of religion in our area is atrocious.
Now I'm going to try to skip from saying that to another section, and I might have to go back.
To me, with these folk down in Virginia, I've been, if my son and I come, our trouble which came into it, and I told him, I said, Finch was, I made friends with a man named Finch in the Rocky Mountain Temple. I pulled up and Finch was doing the yard work, and I was investigating. I'll just tell you the truth. I was investigating because Pastor Jennings and I have been talking back and forth, and Finch and I began to talk, and this was last year, Pastor Jennings. We started talking, and I told him, I said, I've been following around. I went to the convocation in Charlotte, and I've been to Greensboro to a convention, and I said, I'm starting to like Pastor Jennings. You know what? You know what Finch said? He said, Pastor Jennings loves you. I was ashamed of myself. Cut me to the heart. I had let him be my adversary in my mind, and I didn't love him like I should have, and for that I'm sorry.
I'm not having a moment about that. I'm having a moment about remembering meeting Finch. I don't know his first name. I do know that a lot of black men that I know, they talk to each other, and they talk to each other by their last name. When I talk to Gino in person, I call him Gino and he calls me Robertson. It's just a cultural thing. I don't know Finch's first name, but I do know he was a 40-year-old young man, and he knew something had to be up. I mean, I'm driving up and down the road and turning around and coming back, and he's on a riding lawnmower, and so he pulls up and we start talking, and he recognizes me at some point. And I just remember just the unbelievable thing that happened to me when I said I like Pastor Jennings. I probably call him Pastor. And you folks don't need to get caught up with me saying he's a pastor. Pastor is the same word as shepherd. He is shepherding, leading his sheep. It's just no different than me calling him a rancher. You wouldn't have a problem if he was. It is absolutely nothing but a work. He doesn't look at it as a title. And that's why he tells me when I'm with him, call me Gino. I'm not about titles. And when he said he loves you, you know, this man knew who I was. He knew that I was in Rocky Mount, also on television outside of Raleigh, and that one of my targets was to have Gino be on television in Rocky Mount because he had agreed to be on television to debate me. And I was having to do whatever I could to press that into being because it had been 20-something years and it still hadn't happened. It was just goal-oriented. And when he said, Pastor Jennings loves you, that was the beginning of it, of me realizing that I didn't love him. And here's the thing, too, that you need to know. There are 3 congregations of the Churches of Christ in Rocky Mount, and none of them would have anything to do with me. If I were to show up, it just as likely as not, they wouldn't let me in the building. And so I really was a person, without a country, a ship adrift in just a sea of loneliness, really. And this gentleman who, I'm basically taping him, and I don't have a problem. I'm not saying I'm repenting or sorry that I was taping him. It is a part of the job. People often won't tell things that they believe, and then when you try to talk about it or get it out of them, they still deny it. And so I just don't have, you can do what you want or say what you want. And you can think about me any way you want to here. It doesn't matter to me at this point, because when I told them I was sorry forever. Realizing that somehow or other I had allowed the adversarial position that we actually have to maintain against a different doctrine to keep my heart from feeling genuine love for them and concern for them, not just overcoming them. And so that was a very, very big moment. And after that, I ended up talking to his group of people and telling them that I had to ask Gino Jennings to come to Virginia, and that I would rather have him in the area than the people that represent his supposedly faith, and the Baptists and the Methodists and the Presbyterians and Pentecostals and all the rest of them, and the Churches of Christ in this area who are not truly following what the Bible says. I said, this is what I'm going to do. And so that was a turning point in my life. And I'm saying to you, somebody might say, hey, you're just doing this to get views. Listen, that video has 97,000 views already. There is nothing that I can do that will ever get close to anything like that in 3 or 4 days. That is going everywhere. Somebody called me just before we started and said, I saw you in the pulpit. Can I help you? I'm not defending myself. I could care less. Absolutely impossible for me to care any less about my reputation at this point. If you have a reputation, what do you have it for if not to serve the Lord? I'm not trying to protect myself. I haven't been trying to protect it in the past, but I'm saying that this event has helped me to move even further in that. In 1 Kings chapter 5, do you think it's wrong for me to love Gino Jennings and for him to love me and us not be in total accord? I mean, there's another level that we can reach if we can be actually believing the apostles, Jesus' words that the apostles actually spoke, John 17:20. And the world then realizes that you're one. There's a difference. And then they see you loving one another. Well, you know, the world can see us loving one another before we ever reach that other level of actually being truly one in Christ. One in one faith, like Jesus and God are together. That's what he was actually saying. No differences in your theology. Do you think Jesus and God had a difference in their theology? And Hiram, king of Tyre, sent his servant unto Solomon, for he had heard that they had anointed him king in the room of his father, for Hiram was ever a lover of David. That's a Phoenician king, and he was ever a lover of David, and he is setting about to help Solomon build the temple that his dad had done everything he could to prepare, the stones, the wood, even the pegs that they were going to nail. All of it was all prepared. And now Solomon was in the position to build it. And Hiram loved David, and he's going to help him. And I'm in the pulpit here, and somebody's saying, well, you're in the pulpit, so what does that mean about Johnny Robertson? You know, if I were y'all, I'd keep that stuff out of my mouth. It's not hurting me. And it just is amazing that, you know, individuals, what does this mean? What do you think I'm saying here? I'm not telling you to go into a place and have them think that you're in a joint participation with their worship. Everybody in that place knows who I am. I was there in September of last year. They all know that I came to further the situation between myself and Gino Jennings discussing the truth of the Godhead. How is it that there is a group called Oneness Pentecostal, or the Holiness group that Gino Jennings is pretty much over? That's what we were doing. And I was talking to him about some future events. So at this point, I want to try to bring us back, if I can, I want to try to bring us back to how that has anything to do with the city council. And so here it is. Gino gets up behind me, and this is basically what he has to say.
He and I had a chance to sit and discuss several things, many things. And I thank God for him being present. I haven't been to Martinsville in several years. I haven't been to Danville, Virginia at all. But God willing, we will be going back, if the Lord's will, to Martinsville, Virginia.
Okay, now there's more of that, but I'm stopping there. You just heard Gino Jennings, as a result of our sitting together and talking, you just heard him say that, Lord willing, he will be coming back to Martinsville. Now, I'm going to have to skip ahead, and I'm doing it real fast so that you don't see what I got. This man has 110 million views on this channel. I know he has way over 639 videos there somewhere. But on this particular channel, where he has 452,000 subscribers, he has 110 million views. I'm going to tell you this. If I knew that a person with that kind of influence was headed down my way to expose me, I would be thinking something about that. And that is exactly what he is talking about. Because of his concern for me, he is coming, and for the souls of the people, but because I have asked him, we have talked about furthering our venture, which is to come together and figure out which one of us is wrong, whether it's both of us, one of us, how much, whatever. That's the goal, is to sit down and figure out how to be one, like Jesus said in John 17:21, and how to demonstrate the love that we're supposed to have for one another to the world, so that they will know that we are his disciples. And while we were in that, he made that statement, Martinsville, I'm coming down there. And what you have right here is the first time he ever did that. This was in 2000. I'm not going to play this particular video, but you can see it's grainy and it's old. That was in 2000. Now, let me back up. Let's go back to our city council. Here we were, and got the guys that we have as our, these are our characters tonight. And they're asking, are we there yet? And so let's meet who Gino Jennings is coming to talk to. Meet Adina. She's a financial advisor, I suppose. I'm not sure all of her credentials, but I do know this. I know that she has been down in Texas. And that means something. She's been in Texas, and she's coming. Remember I said, who are these immigrants coming in here to Virginia? She's been working in places like Dallas and San Antonio and Austin, and she's coming to Martinsville. I just can't help but say there's something up with that. Well, meet Robert. He's been working in Texas, Petersburg, Virginia, and Richmond, Virginia, and he's headed to Texas. You've been in Petersburg and Richmond, and what was the other one that I said? Somewhere, I'm not sure where it was in Texas, but headed to Martinsville. Now they're already here. They've been here, I guess, for a year. And then you've got the notorious D.C. lawyer, Eric, who has worked in D.C. and in Illinois. Now, what is up here? I'm just saying, I can't understand why these folk are immigrating here. And what could possibly be the lure? Because I'm saying at the end of the day, if you've got a city their budget is $38 million, and I think it's costing like $20 million to pay for the electricity. And I don't care how far off I am or if I'm wrong at all. Half the time they're wrong on their budget anyway. And Robert said that what he actually showed them in the meeting last night wasn't even right. So, but I know I saw $38 million as like what their fiscal year deals with. And so here they are. This is Eric, this is Robert, this is Adina, and this is Aretha. Now, Miss Aretha, I don't know what's up with you, but I know that she shares something with these folk. She also has worked in D.C. She also has worked in Illinois. She also has been doing the same kind of work that we're talking about here in Texas. And she has also been, did I say D.C.? She's been in Petersburg as well. And so these folk have one thing in common that I know of, and that is that they have traveled the same road. Did they travel at the same time? I don't know. But I do know this. Hey, Bill, I'm doing a broadcast, and I will call you back.
Okay, are you going to call me tomorrow?
Well, how about you tell me now? The question that I ask you, and I'm telling this for the air, on air,
yeah,
because I'm getting some flack about showing kindness to Gino Jennings.
Yeah.
And I was told, Caleb told me that he believed that you recounted to him that Joe Warlick and Bogart used to debate Pentecostals together.
Well, okay, so that's not quite accurate, but so Joe Warlick and Ben Bogart, okay, so Joe Warlick and Ben Bogart debated themselves together against each other 23 times, but they were friends, so the Mormons called Joe Warlick to debate Mormons in Arizona, and he got on the train in Dallas, and Ben Bogart was on the train. They discovered that the Mormons had asked Ben Bogart to come out there and debate. They wanted to see those two guys debate. They had a lectureship together on Mormonism.
Ah.
So not only that, but Bogart went out to California. He debated. I have the debate with Amy Semple McPherson, one of the founders of the Pentecostal Church. And she was the most popular thing in America at that time, about the first decade of the 20th century. Ben Bogart had to go to Joe Warlick, and Joe Warlick helped him put together his notes for the debate. He said, here's how you need to handle the cessation of the miraculous. And he did a good job with it, too. So he did help him with that debate. That's correct.
Okay. Well, I have been showing our audience a video of myself in Gino Jennings' pulpit in Philadelphia this past week, and I brought up 1 Kings 5, where Hiram was ever a lover of David and helped David's son build the temple, in which I don't really care what anybody says about me being over there anyway. Everybody in his arena and anybody that knows me knows that I'm opposed to oneness, the holiness movement, And so, I was just there to tell them that something had happened to me from the standpoint of how I felt about them. And I asked him to come to Virginia. And so that's what we're into right now. So very good, Bill.
I haven't been able to watch your video. I saw you send it. I've been at church, just got in, but that's true. They lectureship together against Mormons in Arizona, and he helped him in the debate with the Pentecostals. That is, he gave him notes for Amy Semple McPherson's debate in Los Angeles.
Okay, so to be clear for our folk that want to gnaw on me about that, which I'm not saying, I'm saying I don't care about my reputation. I care about them getting their hearts right. Bogart is a Baptist, and
that's correct.
Joe Warlick is a brother in the Church of Christ. So here it's who in the world would say, I'm talking about older people, any of the people that would have taught either one of us, anybody that has any knowledge of pioneers, who would say that Joe Warlick had done something wrong in that regard to try to stamp out Amy McPherson. Man, the beginning of this humongous Pentecostal movement. So thank you, Bill.
That's correct. Yeah. So use that material. I have it in Joe Warlick's own materials. He has the Gospel Guide. I've got copies of it. It'd take me a while to find it, but it's in there. So I've used it in my paper on Joe Warlick, but that's correct.
Okay, I appreciate it very much. I'll talk to you later.
Love you, Johnny.
Okay, love you too. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So here we are. So, Miss Aretha, did you arrange for all of these immigrants to come in? Because we're looking at you and we're wondering what's going on, and I'm wanting to ask you, do you think you're slick? That's my question. Do you think that you are slick getting Mayor Jones to get these guys together and to somehow or other include them in our city politics? And this guy, and by the way, this is a video that I'm going to play from 2010. This is J.C. Richardson. You were over at J.C. Richardson's celebrating Martin Luther King legacy last week, I guess it was, or whatever. And I just, somehow or other, I don't know what you could possibly think that you're up to and that you're going to accomplish. But can I tell you, we have been down this road before. And all of these religious people are up in here for some reason. And it is basically to fight and argue over that $38 million budget that you saw, how it's going to be allocated. And in particular, this guy right here was not opposing electronic gambling that was trying to be introduced in the black community, by the way, on the west side. And some other individuals were, including myself, were at this city council, and we were there to oppose him. So here we are. Here's our players. Miss Adina, you should jump ship. Get out the van. Robert, time's up. And the DC lawyer, he don't even have a license to practice in Virginia. What in the world is going on where this guy gets up and is looked at as the authority? And, there's got to be something that is just amiss about him not having passed the bar in Virginia. And yet he's doing all of the talking. So we're going to discuss that as we go along. And so here is the full picture in 2010. This is the former president of the NAACP. He is referred to as a reverend. You have the all-knowing Reverend J.C. Richardson, Bishop Prelate of the Mount Sinai Apostolic, whatever. And you just, you have Tim Martin here. He's on the planning committee, and you just have the walls lined with individuals. I'm sitting back there also. And this is, do you think that we're going to lay down in this community, and whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish by using these religious figures is going to happen? Can I give you a history lesson? How about just, a little bit of a history lesson? Now, let's see. This is a long one. But it is, we're in about, 940?
to it before they agreed to it. And I would like to know, by a show of hands, who voted for this. And I would also like to know who was on the Community Action Board with Brother Gino Richardson to sign their name to it. Because my concern is, if you're not your brother's keeper, who are you keeping? That's my concern. That's the way you need to look at things. We voted for you guys. Y'all supposed to be the gatekeepers. Y'all supposed to have our backs. You're not.
Now, I don't know if you notice it or not, but this fellow right here, he's got the eye of the city council, and he's up here doing this number here. Cut him off, set him down. You know, city council right now is in the process of formulating new rules. I'm talking about they own Robert's rules for decorum big time. And I mean, it's just like Miss Aretha, she is trying to set up where nothing like this can ever happen. They're talking about everything being more orderly, only 3 minutes, and they're trying to fix it so that if you haven't gone through a particular process that everybody can't even necessarily meet, you won't even get to speak, because she doesn't want to ever see this happen. What is this? This is our community coming together and having it out over the fact that some individuals in the religious community were involved in a planning committee and they were not opposed. And so to the electronic gambling that was going to be particularly highlighted in the black community, and they decided that they would regulate it. And so let's hear how this goes. Remember, this is Mr. Richardson right here. This is where Miss Aretha was giving her speech on getting all of the churches into politics, and let's make headway and change our environment. And also remember that she and the DC lawyer, I don't know if they were in DC at the same time. I don't think Eric looks as old as she does. I don't mean any offense. I have no idea how old she is. But Eric looks a bit young, but he might have been in DC at the same time. I'm not sure. But he is registered in DC as a lawyer. I don't know if he still has a license. Take a listen.
Y'all's backs. And for y'all to bring something to this city that's already on hard times, for poor people to have hope, that's what the churches was for. The church was supposed to give them hope on Brother Richards, and that's the way that's supposed to work. You weren't supposed to go having these secret committees and people signing papers to agree to let something in Martinsville, Virginia, on the west side of Martinsville, faster than we get grocery store.
Now, I am actually aligned with several of the individuals here. I was aligned with him. Let me back up just a tad, just for a minute, and show you some people back on the wall that we were there all together. Gentlemen back here on the back wall, here, we're together. Gentlemen sitting here beside me, we're together. I'm with Leonard Jones this particular meeting, the former president of the NAACP, and we're opposing these religious figures in this particular event. So continue to listen.
People's bad acts. Well, I hope somebody stands up for morality. That's all I say.
Madam Mayor, members of City Council, one of the reasons the chairman of the Planning Commission, Tim Martin, is here, and one of the reasons I'm here as a member of the Planning Commission. First of all, you don't know what you're talking about. And, no, I haven't signed anything, Leonard, and I'm not going to get into a fuss and dash with you here.
You're already in a fussing match. You can't control yourself, and that is his issue. That's J.C. Richardson. He can't control himself, and I don't know why. She's over with J.C. Richardson and trying to line up like he's going to be some kind of controlling element in our community. I've already had a debate with him on television where he had me sign a contract that he turned around and broke in front of everybody. I wouldn't trust him as far as you just finish out the cliche.
Disrespectful. If I sign, I will say I signed. I'm man enough to say whatever I've done. I'm man enough to say.
But you don't know what you're talking about. This came before the Planning Commission. requested them. The law allowed them to come in, not the Martinsville Planning Commission. That's the first thing Leonard Jones and everybody else needs to know. The law. That's why we put so many stipulations on it. We were trying to see what we could do to regulate it, if not downright eliminate it. And I said at the last city council meeting that at the meeting that we voted, and by the way, you didn't show up for the public hearing for the planning commission. If you're gonna run your mouth, you need to show up when it's time to show up, not show up when you can.
Now, his time would be up, according to the rules that they're trying to enact now. 3 minutes is all you can, that's all the time you have, and he just on and on.
But we were told that we could not ban them, so what we were trying to do was come up with a recommendation to the city council as to how we could best regulate them. I said last time that we didn't have all of the information that we would have preferred to have when we voted. Tim Martin just said the same thing. We later found out about the crime rate in North Carolina when we first questioned.
You didn't have sense enough to know the crime rate that you're going to have by bringing in gambling of any kind, and you're a pastor, number one, and you're telling us you're on this committee and you didn't have the information? Let me move ahead a little if I can.
You know, and why is it called Internet Cafe when we gambling? You know?
My name is Marty Ryder. You've heard from the Colonial Mounds, and you've heard from those that are pretty much opposed of the Internet sweepstakes.
He's the guy that's bringing the gambling in, so naturally you know what he's going to say, so let's skip ahead.
And I am the one person on the west side, so don't come after me, please. So there's probably a lot of questions, a lot of people crying. So I have very little crying. In the newspaper, we do the Commonwealth reference that you made in the newspaper. We do the reference that you made in the newspaper. We do the Commonwealth of Virginia has not granted taxing authority that some localities in North Carolina have, where there is a per machine tax. But we are taxing them for the personal property, and the machines are taxed at our business personal property tax rate, which is the same as business vehicles. In addition to that, the city is also gaining revenue from the utility costs for all these businesses. And so far, we have actually licensed 8 internet cafes. There is a 9th one that met its inspection requirements yesterday, but we have not licensed them.
Well, that brings me to a website. It's the UNC Local Government Law Blog, and just to demonstrate just how, if we can use the word odious, they have become in North Carolina, they make a note about the gross income tax, the gross tax that's put on these entities, and one owner of a sweepstakes assembly, whatever you want to call it, is based in Pilot Mountain, and he's setting one up in Roanoke County, and he assumes that he's going to make several $1 million, and he's actually having to pay estimated tax payments on that already. So we're hearing from the UNC Law Blog that they know that these businesses make that much money and they stand to receive that much tax. And as Mr. Mundy said, we don't have the right to put the per machine, but they were putting as much as $500 per machine in some of their cities. And all of this revenue is available, and yet North Carolina has banned it. That ought to tell us that the revenue is not outweighing the problems that they're having with the gaming institutions. And so that just want to go on record.
I want it to be made aware. I think what you're saying is you would like us to ban this.
Torian, can you explain that?
Which I should have, and not everybody actually went into it. And we, in an attempt to give his office to done rapidly and not because we voted for them too.
Well, then I would suggest that you voted on Armstrong, Senator Reynolds.
All of them.
It was just simply something
potentially makes them legal in the Commonwealth. The state legislature of Virginia making them illegal, roughly the same time. North Carolina has changed their law to make them illegal.
And that path what you have, we have no board. But I think what you're saying is you like us to ban the as a right anyone to be able to operate a band.
I agree. I counted on the way up here. I went to all 5 of them that I knew that was open on the west. Where those people's children had disposable income. They are spending tomorrow. They got $10 internet cafe and make a little money. So that, you know, and why is it called internet cafe when we get
The Colonial Mounds, and you've heard from them.
So I was actually looking for a dispute between myself and Jennings, not Jennings, but J.C. Richardson, and I forgot to actually find the time signature where he gets up again and interrupts me, and we ended up having a back and forth right in front of the entire city council. And so, y'all, I'm just saying, Miss Aretha, really, is this going to work? Let's hear from whether or not our lawyer is actually a true representative of Virginia law. Take a listen.
That's one question. And my second question would be, what is the city standing with Mr. Eric Payne? I read an article recently that said upon his admission to the Virginia State Bar Association that he would receive the title of city manager, or city attorney, rather. If you look on Martinsville website, he's still not listed. And if everyone noticed a moment ago when Mrs. Benavidez had a legal question, we zoomed out to Steve Durbin. What is the standing? What is the relationship? Is Mr. Payne in the Virginia Bar Association, or is he not? And if he is not, where does that power that he would have then fall as far as city's manager or city council? I have 1 minute left. Can I get any response while I'm still up here with my minute?
the floor, or somebody can get with you immediately after the meeting.
Okay.
And the rumor was, people were talking about the city is becoming too black. And when a city becomes too black or too white or too anything, that's a problem. A city needs to be diverse and represent.
Now, the reason I'm playing Ms. Aretha right here is she didn't answer the question that Caleb asked, his second question. She did not answer about the lawyer. And so she is answering why it is that she's doing what she's doing with the diversity and trying to get the churches in and basically answering a rumor about equality and things of that nature. But what I want you to see is they're going to cut the mics in a minute and they're going to adjourn. But Caleb is going to go ahead and get his last word in so that he can make sure that it's clear to everybody that she did not answer the status of the lawyer. Continue to listen.
The people that we represent. Thank you.
Eric Payne, I didn't get an answer on Eric Payne. I asked that question.
Managing Director, Development Services.
So thank you.
I'm Eric.
Hi, Eric.
What's your question?
My question was, have you been admitted to the Virginia Bar? And why is that?
Because I have not either taken the bar or been admitted by application, which is the process for being admitted to the Virginia Bar. I am admitted to multiple other bars.
Yes, sir. Which ones?
That was my battery
Okay. And so the news article
telling
I read
me
was
that I need to plug in.
August of last year.
And just my question, are you recording?
I am.
Okay. And you're recording for personal purposes? Or
I'm in the media.
Okay. What media organization are you with? Because I don't know.
Yes. I broadcast on Star News and other affiliates.
Hey, brother. Thank you for all your help today. Yeah. So, what was your second question? I apologize.
You gave me the places where you are in the Bar Association. You said D.C. and what was the other one?
Illinois.
Okay. And I said, the article I read that said you would assume the position once admitted to the Virginia Bar Association, that was from, I believe, either August or September of last year?
It's the Virginia Board of Bar Examiners, not the Bar Association.
Yes, Between now and then, what has been the holdup of you doing that?
There is an admissions process to the Virginia bar. It actually could take a year. It could take a year and a half. If you apply by application, I'm taking the most expeditious route, which is taking the Virginia bar in February.
Yes.
I'm not serving in a legal role. I'm serving as...
Okay. Now, you know the question that Caleb asked was, why is it that Miss Aretha turns to him when they have questions? And I mean, for all practical purposes, everybody thinks that he is a lawyer, that he is in fact doing legal work. And the question is, what is going on here? Now, that there's another 7 or 8 minutes of that, and we're going to put that up, but I just want everybody to get that your servants, that's what we are. We're all here to serve each other. One of your servants, who some of you people don't like at all, just found out that he's not even a lawyer. And Ms. Aretha has him up there. They're deferring to him. Ms. Adina is deferring to him. Robert, he's giving out his financial statement and all of that. And it's like, what is going on? Now, can I go back to Gino Jennings for a minute? Because he does have something to say about this kind of behavior.
He and I had a chance to sit and discuss several things, many things. And I thank God for him being present. I haven't been to Martinsville in several years. I haven't been to Danville, Virginia at all. But God willing, we will be going back, if the Lord's will, to Martinsville, Virginia, and also Danville, Virginia. I don't care how small a town is or how large a town is. There's always plenty of room for the devil to get busy. And to my sad regret, as he and I begin to converse, the devil is not out to save nobody. My interest and only interest is for the salvation of people's soul. Not to rob you, not to con you, not to duke you, and certainly not by any means to play Bible with you, but to call the world attention to what's written in the scriptures. That's right. So as he and I began to converse, and how he began to tell me the so-called Apostolics and the Pentecostals and the madness that is in Danville and also Martinsville, and how the so-called Church of Christ preachers closed their doors on them. When me and Pastor Robertson first met, it wasn't on good terms. I didn't know him. And he really didn't know me outside of seeing me on television. And I remember when he first came to the meeting, challenged me, called me out. And I said, you don't have to wait till later, we can take care of business now. And then for years, I didn't attack him too much over the air because I really didn't know what he believed, but I assumed that he believed in what all of the so-called Church of Christ believe, and talking to him, I assumed wrong. And he found out that I was not what perhaps he thought I was. As I say, moreover, many people see me over the air, but they don't know me. All they see is Pastor Jennings over the air. But if you sit and talk to me, you will understand that I'm just a down-to-earth brother. Now, there's a world parade.
Get ready. He's about to describe what is taking place in Martinsville. And I'm telling you, these pastors know him very well. They all have ganged up in the past to try to keep their members from associating with him. They know him very well. He knows J.C. Richardson very well. He cannot stand William L. Bonner. cannot stand R.C. Lawson, cannot stand S.C. Johnson. All of these groups that are apostolic, or associated with apostolic, continue to listen.
That have went from street and have funneled itself into church. Money is the god of the churches now. The God of heaven is not recognized, worship, praise, respect. The name of Jesus is just tossed around so you can have a religious appearance. Think of that. It's just so you can have a religious appearance.
You got to get this. I'm saying it's fixing to get rough.
Think of that. It's just like the mafia who organize crime. And for a front, have a cleaners, a restaurant, and other forms of business. Well, church became no better. They have organized themselves very thoroughly. This is why religion have aligned itself so close with politicians, Democrats and Republicans, mayors, governors.
Are you hearing that, Mayor Jones? I don't know what y'all are doing, but I know you're up to something. And a whole lot of people know you're up to something. And we just heard that your lawyer is not a lawyer. He hasn't passed the bar. And so next time you go to city council, anything that you're involved in with city council and Eric gets up, I don't see why you just don't just go ahead. I mean, you might get removed. I've been removed from city council. The chief of police walked up to me and said, Johnny, why don't you just go ahead and take it to TV? They were cutting me off, and the chief of police, who happened to be a friend of mine, just said, he was going to put me out, but he just patted me on the shoulder and he said, take it to TV. And that's exactly what we did. And that's exactly what we're going to do as we continue this finding out what parade is going on. And Pastor Jennings likens, you just need to hear this wording one more time, Mayor Jones.
So you can have a religious appearance. Think of that. It's just like the mafia who organize crime. Think of that. It's just like the mafia who organize crime. Think of that. It's just like the mafia who organize crime.
J.C. Richardson, did you hear what he said about aligning the church with government? What did he say to you? You think he's scared of you? Not one bit. And the people that are sitting listening to him are wondering right now, they're wondering, why in the world did we not follow Pastor Jennings? Why are we following these folk who are basically doing the same kind of stuff they were doing back in 2010? Didn't even know the regulations, the kind of stuff that North Carolina was seeing firsthand and kicking. North Carolina's right beside us, for those of you watching all over the nation. North Carolina is our border, not even 5 minutes from Danville. And North Carolina is getting rid of that particular kind of gambling because of the crime. And these Virginia guys that are on the planning committee, they don't know about the crime and they didn't have time to do the study. Come on now. All right, now let's get more personal. Let me make sure I don't miss anything here.
They have organized themselves very thoroughly. This is why religion have aligned itself so close with politicians, Democrats and Republicans, mayors, governors, anything that's not sound and on God's side. I believe that Moses posed a question or made a statement under the inspiration of the Almighty God. You that is on the Lord's side, he told them to come to him.
You that are on the Lord's side, that's what you need to do. You need to be listening to us. We're putting it all on the line, and I have asked Pastor Jennings to come to Virginia and help us out, and he obliged. But can you get more personal? Listen to this.
Scripture. That's right. That's not following scripture. That's not following. You apostolic fellas out there now look like Roman Catholic Church more than a Roman Catholic church do. Yeah.
Whoop. I got to get you some context, because I know that Miss Aretha and the immigrants that have come into our area, they're not aware of what's going on. I mean, y'all have seen this picture, I'm sure. That's Alan Preston, and this is Charles Whitfield up in here with the logo, making a commercial in front of our city. But this is Alan Preston. And you know, what was Gino Jennings saying? Let's have a listen to what he says as we look at Alan Preston.
They getting all that with white robes and little red beanie hats and all of the Roman Catholic church do. Yeah. They now look like Roman Catholic Church more than a Roman Catholic church do. Yeah. They getting all that with white robes and little red beanie hats and all of that type of folly. That's right. They swap wives like someone trade cars. Amen. Homosexuals in churches. Yeah. That stuff is not following Jesus. No. Are you listening? And when he put forth his own sheep, you see, Jesus had his own sheep. His own followers. There are those that's truly following him, and these are following him. That's right.
Now here's the question you got to ask yourself. Is this dude following Jesus? Is this guy following Jesus? Are these dudes in the city council, are they following Jesus? I mean, where did they even come from, and how in the world did they decide to light on us in Virginia? What did we do to deserve this? Now, you know, I have another question, and I just, I need to be personal with Miss Aretha, because, what she got over and said at Mount Sinai, it really sounded like race baiting to me. And I mean, that really isn't the true character that she has been known to demonstrate. Listen to her.
I hit him back because I'm a sarcastic person. I say things to make you uncomfortable. I said, and you didn't realize that I was going to be the whitest black girl you ever met. And they're like, yeah.
So she came with the reputation of being the whitest black girl that you ever met. I don't even understand what that means, but I do know that she had a big talk back to Caleb about black and brown. Can I just stop for a moment and ask this question about black and brown, please? What are we talking about? Are you actually trying to say that you're representative of the Latino community? I didn't see any Latinos at any of these events. Caleb and I went to Charles Whitfield's. We were very well received. Charles Whitfield wouldn't take a picture with Caleb because he said it looked like we were together. Well, I'm in Gino Jennings' pulpit. You could probably get around that. And over at J.C. Richardson's, people treated us great, with the exception of Miss Cartwright. She was the only smart aleck that was up in there. But this woman here, she was really giving it a go. And I don't really think she was talking to any brown people unless she's talking about the tones of color of African Americans. So why are you bringing that up? Listen to this.
Duncanville, as I did orientations, and I even talked to my Hispanic and my black employees, and I'm like, this is something new. And I need you to be prepared, and you've got to be accepting of them just like you want them to accept of you. There are cultural things that you may not have been exposed to that you've got to learn. So, it's not a new issue. It's an issue we've been grappling with. Individuals have earned their spot at the table through education, experience, and hard work, which is what I expect of everybody. Whether you're orange, purple, green, or pink,
Pink, love pink. So, for everyone to know, I am very proud that our city shows that it represents the folks that are in it. Now, we are 50%, and I said black and brown. Those are the
Chicago. Chicago was an introduction where they had this thing called a consent decree. The Latino consent decree was because the Hispanic community, and it's still one today for Hispanics and blacks against police, but this was to ensure hiring practices were fair. So what they did in Chicago is that they started looking and said that we have a large Latino population, but our government is not reflective. But we didn't just want a job, we want jobs at a higher level.
Our government is not reflective of our high Latino population. Well, you know, when I'm looking around the city council, unless somebody, I mean, you can call me right now. My number is 806-2150. How many Latinos are working in the Martinsville city government? I mean, as far as us reflecting the population, but one of the reasons it would be hard for you to actually come up with a reflection of what the population really is, the demographic, is because she is lumping black and brown together. And so, you know, if you're a person who is from the Latin American community, if you're a Latino, if you're a person from Mexico, or you're from South America, you're of Spanish descent, are you actually seeing the government reflecting the population that you represent? We have a lot of people in this area that can actually check the brown box. And we're not talking about a tone here, skin tone. We're talking about ethnicity, totally different ethnicity. So, Mrs. Aretha, I just don't think you really represent them. And I'm not really sure you're the whitest black girl person. What did she say?
I hit him back because I'm a sarcastic person. I say things to make you uncomfortable. I said, and you didn't realize that I was going to be the whitest black girl you ever met.
Whitest black girl you ever met. Now, I'm done, y'all. That's basically, well, I will take it back. I do have one other thing to say. You know, Ms. Aretha, you could have showed up at the drag night at Wild Mags while you were at it. Take a listen.
That we do have diversity. We have at least 2 department heads who are gay men. And that was the answer. Gay white men, but gay men. And so there was diversity. My job, I went to a conference and I started getting these calls because this young entrepreneur in our city decided that June is what? Pride Month. Well, for Pride Month, what he decided to do was to hold a drag show. Well, that was a not in my backyard moment.
How about let's all do a little bit of search before we see each other again. What does that phrase mean? That was not one of my, what did you say?
Show. Well, that was a not in my backyard moment.
That's a not in my backyard moment. Did you mean they couldn't have one in your backyard? Or did you mean in a way like the city area that is our kind of our backyard? We're neighbors, and that's not in my backyard kind of event. Well, you know, a city manager, I mean, a former city councilman, they just had a drag night over at Wild Mag. And she could have showed some of that diversity by going over and participating, letting herself be seen. One of the city council members was over there, and she's not even a city council member. You would think that she was the mayor, the way she's making the rules and telling Mayor Jones, it is pretty evident you don't know what you're doing. And Ray Sean sure doesn't know what he's doing. And so this is not a race thing, and you can't play the race card with me because, you know, really, I've got the most racial individual that you can pull up that's actually aligned with me, and that's Gino Jennings. He will call everything, no matter who it is. And he has just told you all that he's coming to Martinsville, and he's compared you to some pretty unseemly individuals. And in particular, he has talked terribly bad about the religious folk that Miss Aretha has decided to try to get, and Mayor Jones has decided, she thought it was a good idea, and Mayor Jones has decided it's a good idea to bring in, of all people, Avery Preston. Who are these people that are swapping wives like used cars? I just do know, but I'm not saying tonight. Appreciate you for being with us. You are on What Does the Bible Say? And you know, when you are a person who is involved in what we're involved in, sometimes, well, really, we're all neighbors, and we do need to be involved in our community events. And so that's what we are doing, and we're covering some of them now. And then you also saw the current affair, or the current status, as far as myself and Gino Jennings. He is coming to Martinsville. And so I hope and pray that you enjoyed our broadcast tonight. And I hope and pray that you will be at our next city council meeting, and that you will inform yourself. We have some people that have immigrated here that I'm just really not all that comfortable with. God bless you. Always ask for it. What does the Bible say? Good night.